You want to save $2,000 for new furniture, $4,500 for a trip, and $3,500 for unexpected medical costs in a sinking fund that earns 3.5% annual interest compounded monthly. You want to reach this goal in 2 years. How much should you deposit each month? Well, it's a big question. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the formula for the monthly deposits for sinking funds. So the deposit D equals A, which is the amount you're trying to save up, times the interest rate divided by the number of payments per year, or number of deposits per year, divided by 1 plus R over N to the N T power minus 1. Okay, so we can figure out what each of these variables is and then just substitute the numbers and do the calculation. So A is your amount, but it's also your savings goal. So what do we have? We have $2,000, and then we have $4,500, then we also have $3,500. Okay, so that looks like $10,000 is the amount that you're going to be saving. And the rest of these values we know the interest rate is 3.5%. So that's 0.035. And we're going to be depositing each month, so N is 12. And it's also compounded monthly. The calculation would not really be possible if your compounding was different than your deposit rate. The formula assumes those are both the same. If you have some weird situation where you're trying to do deposits once a year, but you're doing monthly compounding, well, it just gets pretty ugly. So this formula assumes that the deposit rate is the same as the compounding rate, and we usually just use monthly for that. The time, the number of years, is 2 years. So those are all the values. Now we just substitute, and then we're going to use a calculator to solve for the deposit. So we have 10,000. Okay, so this is kind of a complicated deal here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure this R over N separately and then just put that in the formula. So R over N is 0.035 divided by 12. So let's do that on the calculator. 0.035 divided by 12. And I'm going to use several decimal places, 0.0029, and then I'm going to round it to 2. So 0.00292. And I'm going to put that value in for R over N. So 0.00292 divided by 1 plus 0.00292. And that's all going to be to the NT power. NT is 12 times 2, which is 24. So I'm just going to put 24 there. Minus 1. So this part right here, this 1 plus 0.00292, I could just write that as 1.00292. Okay. So now we just need to figure the rest of this out on a calculator. So it's 10,000 times 0.00292 divided by 1.00292 to the 24th, and then minus 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out this 1.00292 to the 24th and then figure the rest from there. So 1.00292 exponent 24 minus 1, so that's 0.0724, so on and so forth. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 0.00292 and then divided by, and I'm going to use the answer, second, and then answer. That way it's going to put that decimal already underneath there automatically. So then I have 0.04028, and then that represents the entire fraction part of my answer. So all I need to do is multiply by 10,000 now. So 402 and 84 cents, I'm just going to call it 403. You may find when doing your calculations that your decimals may be slightly different. Your final number here might be off by $1 or so, depending on how you rounded your answers. I rounded to 5 decimal places and got $403. You may get something that's a little bit different than that, but it should be really close, within $1 one way or the other. So just review the process here. I started off with my deposit formula for a sinking fund. I figured out the amount we needed to save, which is $10,000, then figured out all the other numbers necessary for the formula, substituted in, and then solved it using a calculator.